Well, I mean, Jimmy, there's a quote from him where he was saying that, talking about Steve Jobs and talking about how the party is in tech.
Oh, for sure.
What did he mean? What did he mean? I mean, beyond just making money.
What he meant by that was, first of all, the timing of that came during the decimation, the full throttle decimation of the recording industry. Mm-hmm. Not that he didn't still have hits and recording artists, but not that Interscope wasn't still number one. But honestly, it did. I mean, Napster and all of the downloading music services.
Yeah, peer-to-peer.
Absolutely decimated music. They went, oh my God, it's over. And it was.
Yeah.
It kind of like ended it.
Yeah.
So from that moment, he started looking around and going, well, where's it all happening? And he started realizing that all the creative minds weren't coming into the music industry, and maybe even film industry, that Hollywood and the recording industry was starting to feel like this old school thing.
Yeah.
And he started seeing the world's brightest minds and creatives and people like, you know, kind of the great creative thinkers.
Yeah.
Instead, because Hollywood had attracted them for the last 75 years, going to Silicon Valley. Mm-hmm. Absolutely true.
Yeah.
It's totally true.
Yeah.
I mean, Google and Apple and everybody's attracting like the best and the brightest from around the world, including creatives, including artists and musicians. And, you know, just the fact that Trent Reznor and Dre are at Apple says something.
Right.
You know, it says a lot, and I do really believe that's true. I think.
Do you think that
so when he says the party's up here,
yeah.
you know, he's talking about Steve Jobs, but he means, hey, the party's up here now.
Do you think the party is still there?
I do, but it's getting so monolithic now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's getting terrifying. It's getting so...
What specifically is...
Well, just I'm reading more and more and about just the invasiveness of the lack of privacy and just how these companies are owning everything.
Yeah.
It's just... People are starting to get really, really frightened about that. And so... It's so interesting because there's a really interesting article that just came out quite recently, I believe, about how it was basically saying, don't forget hippies started Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you saw it, but
no,
it's cool.
But
it's good.
I'm aware
and it's
of
all
the lineage,
about, like, how, for sure, it was counterculture. It was like, and it was a utopian dream. And when I've done work with Google, very, much inside Google even, some projects in the past. And I'm not embarrassed about it at all. They were really, really fascinating, cool. And when you're in it, when you're feeling it, and you're talking to them all, you feel this utopian dream. You feel like, no, they're making the world a better place. They really believe that. Mm-hmm. And when you're working with them, you kind of have to also. You just sort of go with it. You're just like, yeah, I see how this is making everything better.
Yeah.
And when you're not inside it, when you're back into your daily life, you start going, man, I'm on Gmail, but it's like, it's like, you just go, I don't like all this stuff. That's why I'm not on any social media. I just feel like it's just one act I can do to keep myself free. And
I get you.
That's all.
Yeah.
It's just one thing I can do. And I also don't.
What was that?
I'm bad enough at email anyway. So.
You're fine. You're good enough. I mean, what was that experience like? Like, don't break any NDAs or whatever, but like that's something that exists pretty hugely in the game industry.
In gaming, for sure.
It's just that people have
I've also done work for. I did a huge I did an amazing. Let me clarify my quote.
Sure.
My work wasn't amazing.
That's
start over. I did a huge job for Xbox. It got to meet all of the... I mean, I act like I'm an idiot, but the truth is, like, it didn't even occur to me till right now that I've actually done a huge job in the gaming industry.
Is that in your portfolio or your reel?
It's on my reel over at Bob, who reps me for commercials.
Oh, I did... Yeah,
it might
I did click through some of that,
but
I
did
didn't see that.
60-second, anthem for Xbox. And we went everywhere. I met the creators of name the biggest Microsoft.
Probably Halo.
I met the makers of Halo. I went to their
flagship thing.
Yeah, I met them. I interviewed them. I mean, it's crazy. Like, it's so funny. I feel It's really silly. I literally have met fucking everyone in the gaming industry, but it was all just for that one job and all in 1 week. And there were short interviews, and I was just fishing for sound bites.
Yeah.
But I even went to, what's the big convention? The big,
E3?
No, the other one that
up in where is it?
No, it was in Boston. It was also
PAX.
Yeah. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Penny Arcade Expo. I've never been, but that's the only thing I can think of. It'd be in Boston.
No, it was huge. I mean, it was fucking huge. It was like every game in the world.
Yeah.
God damn it.
It's okay.
Maybe it is PAX.
It probably is, but I don't know.
In there.
I don't go to all the conferences and stuff. Yeah.
Like, I could, if you're interested, I could tell you who I interviewed. It wouldn't be breaking an NDA, and I can't share you the interviews at all. But it's like, but it was absolutely fascinating. And the goal of the thing was just to talk about how exciting they were about the new Xbox and the future of it.
Yeah.
And trying to break stereotypes. So kind of like what you're doing in a way, probably.
Well, what stereotypes do they want to
But this was a little while ago, which is why it didn't...
Yeah.
It shows you how distracted I've been lately. My brain's like compartmentalized.
Oh, I get it.
It was fascinating to me because I came to it with the same preconceptions of gaming. And the reason I got the job is because I do interviews, and it's like, they wanted us to be very honest and very frank. I even interviewed Bill Gates. Yeah. For like 7 minutes. It was really cool to meet him.
What was your main takeaway from that?
Well, he needed to say, they were like,
so this was like early days.
It was sort of like here was the deal.
Yeah.
It was like semi-scripted. I knew what I needed out of him, and then it was my job to get those quotes out of him, but freshly,
organically.
Which is my job, and I'm proud of that. That's what I do. It's I know I need them to kind of say this, and then I'll get it out of them naturally. Like, oh, I like that. Say that again. Or what are you talking about?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, so maybe you can contrast it against Google.
I meant like the leaders at Microsoft.
Yeah.
Who are in the gaming divisions. Like, we did them in Microsoft. We did it in LA. It was San Francisco. I mean, it was everywhere. Boston. It was an intense job. Yeah. For like 2 weeks, we just went everywhere and filmed everybody. And it was like 35 mega people. But I'd be happy I could tell you more about it, and I could send you a link to it. Yeah, so just remind me someday. No,
I will.
Or after this, and I can just send you a link to it.
And the stranger.
I'd be really curious now to remember who I interviewed and get.
I would be too.
That could be off the record, maybe.
Yeah, totally, absolutely.
And again, I don't have anything to share that it would be bad about it. It was a great gig. I was really honored to meet those people. Mm-hmm. But it was fascinating to hear.
So what did you? Yeah, I mean,
thinking
because I want to ask both about
But there is an inside. Go back to this thing we were talking about, kind of like there is an insider's view of the world when you're in that world. It is a bubble. Yeah. All industries are a bubble. If you work at Disney, you're in the Disney bubble. You believe in Disney. You know you're doing the best product. You know you're doing the right thing. There's history, there's generations of Walt Disney. It's. I've heard from people who work at Disney. It's a real thing. You're really proud to work there. Yeah. And if you're not, don't. Well,
because there's tons of people who would be happy to take your place.
Right, and I really believe I had the same feeling interviewing these folks in the gaming industry. I just flashed out another interview. Yeah. We interviewed the guy. What do you call it when you're on levels? Like you get so many levels. Like the guy who had the most points.
Oh, I don't even know.
It was so crazy. Like the most points, and he was at the convention, and he was just playing the game, and people were standing around going, "Oh my god, that's him!" And I interviewed him while he was playing the game. So funny. It's so interesting, Well, if you ever do the doc, I wonder if they would ever release that footage. It would be a snapshot. It would be such a snapshot. Because it was like probably
early 2000s or something?
No.
More recent than that.
Ago.
Oh, really? Yeah. Much more recent. Okay.
Yeah, but no, my brain's really going.
Yeah.
Like I didn't think of it once with all these emails. I would have said like, "Hey, funny, I did a job with Xbox."
Yeah. No, I should have found it. No, but like, what sort of preconceived notions did that shatter with you? For you?
I think it opened my mind to how deep and really beautiful kind of the games were. That's one thing. And how I think the biggest thing was just how entertaining they are, because one of the great facts that Hollywood hates, or how the movie industry hates, and I'm just making that up, maybe I don't even care.
I'll believe it.
Is how much more money the gaming industry makes than all of Hollywood. That's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
To this day, that is just mind-boggling. It's amazing. Because you just think of the blockbuster hits that still come out. It's like, no, that's just...
Yeah.
That's not... No. Gaming is where it's at. And it was that excitement that I felt.
Mm-hmm.
And that made me less cynical. And it also... I mean, it didn't make me... I didn't at any point get more terrified. Because I realized these are fascinating, intelligent people. And they're building worlds.
Yeah.
And it's not that different from making movies in the 30s, which people felt they were in. They were living these lives. It was 2D, it was on a screen, but that's what blew them away.
Yeah.
And when they added sound, it was like, oh my God, they're talking. I'm in this. I felt like I was with this woman in this room. It's like, that's how they felt. That was VR.
Yeah.
But it just gets more and more and more each time.
How does, you'd be an interesting guy to ask this, like, how do those types of nerds differ from, like,
VR
music nerds, just gamer nerds versus like, you know, like the types of... Because I think even you talk about that in Hype, where they talk about how they're nerds.
They're nerds.
And I don't even know if, like, if you're born after, like, 92, you even know what a nerd is anymore.
I know, right?
But
It
you
used
know
to
the
be somebody who was like
right?
a geek, you know.
And you'd get
and
beat up
then it became
about
just
it.
someone who was, you know, teased in high school or
Yeah.
just wasn't one of the cool guys.
Yeah.
I really couldn't tell you, you know. I'd have to ask you that. Like, I don't know, are gamers considered nerds in high school and stuff?
I don't know. I mean, that
Hardcore
stereotype
gamers?
has changed from, like, a
Or are they
loser.
heroes?
I hope not. Like, what do they do that's heroic? They consume products.
I don't know. I can't answer that. I mean, because musicians aren't always nerds. I mean, sometimes they're the coolest person in the school. And,
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when I was growing up, if you were in a band, it was really cool. It was just the coolest thing ever. That's why most people wanted to be in bands. It was, if you weren't an athlete,
Yeah.
it was a way to get laid.
Well, but I mean, like, a lot of those grunge guys were nerds.
They were, but what they're talking about is more... They're more talking about... That's more like... That's their loser humor kicking in. Their self-deprecating loser humor. Just saying, like, look, we're not what the outside world thinks we are.
Yeah.
You know, we really do sit around and drink beer and just play dark, weird music in a moist basement. You know what I mean? So in that sense, yeah, there's a real similarity.
Yeah.
You know, and anybody in a band, I mean, who really just sits around playing guitar in their basement, I mean, yeah, is that the same thing? Sure.
Yeah. It's devotion to a...
Yeah, absolutely.
Single...
Yeah, same thing with painters
pursuit.
and artists who sit in their basement and paint for hours and years. And it's like, God, all he does is paint. Well, he's probably going to be great, you know? Are we getting to what you're interested in?
Yeah, I mean, is this interesting for you? Is it?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's different from...
No, it's fascinating.
It's a lot of exploratory.
Yeah, I'm
for me.
cool with everything.
Yeah, I mean, is gaming cool now? Does it seem cool to you?
To me, I'm so not in the flow of pop culture. So the people I hang out with, no. But again, I'm 57. You know, it's like... I mean, no, it's a...
I mean, is there anything that seems...
It's not even discussed among me and my friends.
Is there anything that seems rebellious about it to you? You know, because it's how it started. Is like that's how it was received. Because it was, you know, uncool and
I think it's
shunned.
Well, it's so you know, it's always like there's always been sort of an affinity of gamers to like skateboard culture. So in the same way, skateboard culture is defiant. Just by definition.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just because it always was, it never won't be. It always is going to be like, oh, there's some kid on a skateboard. Like, right? It's never going to be like, oh, here comes a family on skateboards. It's just, it's never going to happen.
Right. Seems kind of dangerous.
It's dangerous and it's like public property and, you know, you're not supposed to go down the staircases like that. Somehow that persona is with gaming, I do think,
Yeah.
Definitely has a bad boy. You know, one of the really fun things about this job I did with Xbox was getting to go behind the scenes and see all the cubicles. You know, and see all the little crazy monsters and it was so like each cubicle, like every person was just a crazy, like dark comic book fiend rebel. So in that gaming has a parallel to skateboarding, in that gaming is a parallel to comic book culture, underground comics, which it does.
Yeah.
I don't know, you can explain that better than I can.
Yeah.
It just does. Yes, it has that. It definitely has a rebel. That's a long-winded answer to yes, I think it does.
Yeah.
I certainly don't think of it as something that people think is good, healthy, like
think
for
about
culture.
it?
It's not conservative. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not religious. It's not. It's sort of like deviant. It has a deviant.
Well, it's like doesn't. It
connotation.
has the perception of lacking like nutritional value.
Right. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it definitely does. The deviant, like if. Yeah, I think it has the perception of rebelliousness and deviance. It's certain.
Can you think of a subculture that's like outgrown that perception and like seemed to redeem itself, or is this another example of your trap thing, where sort of once the die is cast, there's no getting out?
Well, it's hard to answer that because if you look at it like, did punk rock go mainstream? It's like, yeah, definitely. Is punk rock still around? Yeah. There's still anarchist, crazy people who you read their lyrics and you feel urgently wrong about the way you're living your life, and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
That means it's still alive. So it's not like... The question you're asking is a really good one.
Yeah.
Have I seen other subcultures grow up?
I don't even know if it's grow up. It's like maybe the rest of the world catches on or something.
I mean, in a funny way, this is just like skateboarding.
Yeah.
Snowboarding, when it was introduced, was rebellious. Like, the skiers didn't even want them on the slopes. It was like just this heinous crime that somebody would just be shushing by you on a different board. It sounds so silly now.
Yeah.
Although there's still hatred of snowboarders among skiers. But it of course it became embraced. It's like in the Olympics. It's like, I mean, families do it now. It's so there's an example of something that seemed really rebellious. It's really not wrong, but just like, whoa, it only lived in a certain culture.
Yeah.
In a very certain skateboard type culture, and then it was embraced by the larger world fully. It's not the best metaphor for gaming.
Well, what about, like, I guess you sort of mentioned this a little, but I mean...
Like gangster rap?
Gangster rap, yeah, rap is what I was going to say. I mean, do you see parallels there?
Yeah, it grew up. I mean, Dr. Dre kind of, if you just, even within the Defiant ones, I mean, the way Dr. Dre's The Chronic opened the door to gangster rap, to not million, I could almost say billions, but millions and millions of people. Because he put it to even though it was still like foul language and, the lyrics are still hardcore. But he just brought it to a whole new world. And then it kind of grew up. I mean, Dre grew up. Like all these, sort of became mainstream.
Yeah.
Even though it still has to act rebellious, and rappers still have to lay it down. They still have to be badass. But rock and roll's always that way.
Yeah.
I mean, Mick Jagger is in his, 70s? He still has to act all badass on stage and go like, he still has to be... He can't just get out there and croon like Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
I can't think of the perfect metaphor.
No, there may not be
I think
one.
it happens with a lot of artists specifically, just painters or something. They'll be anti-society, and then they gain a following, and then they kind of mellow out. I mean, aging mellows people out. It just does. There's no getting around it. And you really can't escape it. And the ones who continue to be rebellious throughout their whole life, they're kind of doomed to a persona. Yeah. And what's great about life is being able to change yourself and to grow and to say, oh, I don't like that anymore. I think I'm okay with this.
It's weird with games because, like, maybe it's similar to film somewhat in that, the end result, like, you just don't see the face of the people or the person who made it, And I do think with games...
At all, but are they kind of rock stars, though, the people who made it?
I mean, how many of them are, like, household names, though? I think, like, in the way the rock stars are.
Oh, that's totally different, yeah. Wait, do you mean the users or the makers?
Makers. I mean, that's sort of the thing.
Are some of the users the players? Are some of them?
They are, yeah. I mean,
rock
so there's sort of so much of a diffusion or moving of the spotlight away from them because it's supposed to be about the player, their experience. You know, I don't know if you've heard of PewDiePie or streamers, or if your son has mentioned any of these. Those are sort of the people who become. I mean, PewDiePie, he's Swedish. He earns like a couple $1 million playing games on YouTube. And he was on Colbert's Late Show.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So he's a major star. Yeah.
Yeah, but the people who make games, no. So I wonder if just there's this harder challenge of demonstrating like it's mellowed. The spotlight's not on the people making it. That's all.
I don't know. I guess. I don't know.
That's okay.
Well, I mean, it's just different. I mean, films are different too. It's like you could argue that the directors aren't stars; it's the actors. But then some directors are
stars. Yeah, there's always exceptions. Well, I mean, I just have a few more here for you. I mean, all these years later, I mean, what do you sort of feel is sort of the message or the moral of hype? I mean, has that changed for you over the years?
Well, no, not really. I mean, in fact, it's almost stronger. It's like, do what you believe. It's kind of, it sounds almost cliche, but it's like, make music, make art, make games for your friends, for you and your friends. You know, focus on what's great about them. Don't focus on, you know, the reason the Seattle music scene was great is that people were they really were insulated. They really were making music for their friends. And that was sort of the secret. And it just got better and better because they were ironically kind of competitive, but in a fun way. Like, oh my God, I can't believe they just played that. You know, that kind of way.
Yeah.
And I think, I'm sure that exists in the world of game makers where it's just so it's competitive, but it's also really fun for them to just keep trying to outdo each other. You know, levels and players too. But see, the thing is, the reason I'm having a hard time. This isn't a bad thing, by the way, but it's hard comparing artists who create with their hands or music or make art or with people who play a game. And I'm not saying they're not geniuses. They are geniuses if they can get to certain levels. And if you're talking about game makers, then there's a corollary. Like they're creatives. Like they're like filmmakers or anything else. And they're on the same level. Like they're even more so today. So the businesses are just. But to most people in Hollywood, gaming, they don't even think about it still. Unless they have a company that owns some games or they're selling their franchise. Like, I suppose there's the Terminator game or whatever, you know, there has to be, right? So stuff like that. But they're not, it's not, it's another spectrum. It really is. It's a whole nother, it's like the bubble metaphor. It's another bubble. It doesn't impact.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, you know, they talk about VR.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk about VR filmmaking.
I know
a lot of young filmmakers are like, no, I'm going into VR. It's like, go for it. Still got to learn to tell a story. Don't forget.
I saw that CAA maybe 2 weeks ago had signed its first VR filmmaker.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's pretty
I don't
cool.
know.
That's cool.
I mean,
it's going to happen.
Who knows?
It'll. Where was I?
Yeah.
Just thinking about. Oh, I know what it was. I was at Intel a week ago showing my movie art and copy.
Yeah.
I wasn't at the Intel main office. It was in San Francisco. They have their advertising agency. It's called Intel Inside. And it was cool. They were really cool. And I went up there and showed a few clips from the Defiant ones and then showed my movie art and copy, which has a lot of similar Defiant thinking and, you know, and it was just a presentation, and you know, it was like a paid speaking engagement, and it was cool.
Oh, that was the thing.
That I was up in San Francisco.
Yeah,
exactly. Anyway, when we were there was you know, talk about VR and stuff in movies, and I couldn't really go too far with it because I hadn't really done much. You know, I haven't done anything in VR. I've put a headset on a couple times, but it's like, honestly, it's not my interest, especially being a documentarian. It's kind of like it's like if that's ready for me, whenever, you know. But I have friends who are talking about documentaries and VR, and it's like that's the way to go, and you can see everything, and you can experience, and it's just like totally cool. I don't need to crack that.
Yeah.
I don't need to crack that egg. I'm still working on making the perfect film. You know, and I'll just keep doing that.
Yeah.
And I'll be open to it. But to take a tangent for a second, so I have a 25-year-old son. I have 2 kids. He's my oldest.
Sure.
He lives and works in Austin, Texas. And he has a company named Synesthesia, which is visualizing music. That's what the word means.
I'm familiar with the blending of the senses.
Yeah, and so, and his company makes backgrounds for performing artists, especially like DJs and, you know, like, you know, Tipper, like that, you know, like DJs like that. So he just played this, he plays these festivals, and he is a VJ himself, but mostly he has this company named Synesthesia, and he sells to other VJs this program that does visuals. It's just highly responsive to the music, and it's pretty cool. It's like a plug and play thing. So if you're a folk artist, you can plug in your sound mix just right into it, and it would like put, you know, you could be like cruising through the trees or the clouds, or it'd be psychedelic, or it'd be like edgy punk rock, you know, diamonds, or like whatever the hell. It's like psychedelic or not, you know, whatever you want. And basically, the conversation shifted. I was telling him about that, and then it was sort of like, you know, that could be the future of his company too, because it's sort of like, you know, you can you're listening to music. It almost gets back to what we used to do in the 70s and 80s, which is like really listen to music. Yeah. And now you can see music, and it's like you can, you know, that's all. I don't know what the hell my point is, but
well, I think it's just we're maybe in the midst of these huge concentric cycles that we don't even understand.
Yeah, I know. I think that's true. I think that's very true. Yeah, and if you want to check that out, it's
forever.
It's I'm not making an ad for him.
No.
It's under no obligation to do anything with it, but it's literally synesthesia.
Yeah. Okay.
What is it? I know it's a different dot.
It's not .com.
No.
It's not .gov. I would assume.
.live.
Oh, okay.
SYNESTHESIA .live. And his name is Theron. THERO.
I'll look it up.
Theron Frey. It's actually, I'm really proud of him. I am. Yeah. It's not an ad. It can,
No.
You know, it's just like, it's super fucking cool. And we went to a 4-day festival in southern Missouri called 4321. It was like Tipper and Friends, and there's all these amazing DJs. And he was doing background visuals for a DJ named Jade Cicada and another one named Mindex, and there's another name I forgot. But it was cool. It was really good. I mean, I was loving the music. It was a great. Of course, I was 30 years older than every single human being there, but I didn't care. My wife and I still had fun.
Yeah,
it was cool. But that generation gets it. Like, there's a visual connection to gaming and to what my son is doing, and it's like, I'm not cynical about that at all.
Yeah.
I think like the sky's the limit. I think all sorts of stuff is happening. That plus VR plus gaming, it's like, I don't know what that is, and that's not for me to conquer.
Yeah.
That's for his generation. But it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well,
it's exciting.
I have just one more for you, which is very broad and very abstract. I mean, so normally I ask people just sort of what they feel video games have accomplished, but I don't know if you really feel qualified to sort of wax on that.
What have they accomplished?
Yeah.
Well, you've heard this a million times, but they've connected people around the world. Again, I remember, like, I'll never forget the moment I said, "Who are you playing with? I don't get this. Is it just the computer?"
Yeah.
It was like, no, this guy's in Florida, this guy's in India. Like, it was literally all around the world. these two guys, I think they're from Russia. And I was like, you're fucking kidding me. And it was mind-blowing. It was really, really cool. The only sad part is I wish they could actually meet each other and, like make the world a better place. But,
and learn from each other.
But it had promise. It had potential. It had meaning. In the same way that people talk about Facebook or anything else. Like you can connect to the whole world, and that's super cool. I get that dream. I get that utopian dream. Like, I'm not cynical about that. But is there anything that I go back? What was the main question again? Has it contributed?
Accomplished. I mean, it's open to interpretation. There's no agenda or secret.
Hell yeah, it's accomplished. Making the movie industry number 2.
Yeah.
In entertainment. That's a pretty big.
That's nothing.
That's a pretty big ask.
Something small.
I mean, who would have known back in the days of Pong? It's like, this is going to outperform all movies.
Yeah.
That's wild. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, more power to them. I don't know what it shows. I guess it shows. It almost goes back to my theory of trapped.
How so?
It's like, well, what's better than telling a story about being trapped? Being trapped. That's what gaming is. Therefore, it makes more money than movies.
You don't have to worry about getting out that way, I guess.
Well, but every time you get out, it's a story. So to finish and I want to give credit to Professor Suber on this, but to finish his metaphor.
Yeah.
So if every movie is about being trapped, why do we watch movies? Because we want to learn. Because we relate to those traps, we relate them to our lives, and we actually want to learn how that character is going to get out of this. Because everyone's trapped. We're trapped in our marriages, we're trapped in school, we're trapped under our teacher, we're trapped by our boss, we're trapped by our brother, we're trapped by our best friend. We're trapped. We're constantly trapped. And when we watch movies, although it's on a much grander scale, we go like, oh, how's he going to get out of this one? Because that's how I feel. And that's exciting. And that excites us, and we learn, and we're better people when we leave the theater. Gaming, you are the person, and you're making the story as you go. Mm-hmm. And I'm not just talking about nonlinear storytelling as a concept. I mean, you are literally making the story.
Right.
So after every time you win a game or lose or whatever, there's a story. It's like, oh my God, I got caught on the edge of the ship, and then all the helicopters came in and killed me, and whatever. I don't know. It sounds.
No.
I just think it's boring because it's the same fucking thing every single time. It's like, oh, let me guess, you got shot.
Yeah. Like, no, I would agree.
But you're making the story, and that's kind of revelatory. That's pretty cool.